Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us from the United States and all around the world. You're watching CNN Newsroom. I'm Christy Lustau. After years shrouded in secrecy, Donald Trump's tax documents set to be released just days from now. What the public may finally learn about the former U.S. president's personal finances ahead. Vladimir Zelensky heads to Washington, the Ukrainian president preparing for a day of high-stakes meetings on his first foreign trip since Russia's invasion began. And 70 million people are under winter alerts in the United States as a phenomenon known as a bomb cyclone develops. In the coming hours, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky will be in Washington for his first trip outside Ukraine since the war began 10 months ago. The White House says President Joe Biden invited Mr. Zelensky to underscore the United States' enduring commitment to Ukraine. You're watching CNN Newsroom, and still to come, the Supreme Court could soon decide the fate of Trump-era border policy Title 42. The Biden administration wants it to end, but it's asking for an exception. We'll explain coming up. Plus, a major winter storm is growing over the U.S. Tens of millions of people are under threat. We are tracking the dangerous bomb cyclone with our meteorologist, Derek Van Dam, right after this short break. Welcome back. Now, the Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to end a Trump-era pandemic policy restricting migrants from entering the U.S., but not for at least a week. It's requesting the top court to reject an emergency bid by Republican-led states to keep Title 42, but wants the policy to stay in place until next Tuesday to have time to wind down the program. Wow, negative 50. Derek Van Dam there. You're watching CNN Newsroom, and still ahead, another significant move by the January 6th committee, which is turning over troves of evidence to the U.S. Justice Department. Welcome back. Another significant development in the January 6th investigation. Now, sources say the House committee investigating the U.S. Capitol riot and Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election has started handing over evidence from its probe to the Justice Department. Now, the panel is recommending criminal charges against the former president and others. You're watching CNN Newsroom, and still ahead, international condemnation as the Taliban issue another edict cracking down on women's rights in Afghanistan. We'll have a live report. In yet another crackdown on women's rights, the Taliban have suspended university education for all female students in Afghanistan effective immediately. The UN Secretary General says he is deeply alarmed. The U.S. also strongly condemned the move. Now, the Taliban had promised a more moderate government after seizing power last year, but ever since, they have gone backwards, looking more like the hardline rulers of the 1990s. They closed secondary schools for girls back in March, and women can no longer work in most sectors and have to cover their faces in public. You're watching CNN Newsroom, and just ahead, parade pandemonium. Now, millions turned out in Argentina to greet the World Cup champs, but the celebration kind of got out of hand. Buenos Aires threw the party of the year to celebrate Argentina's World Cup champions, and everyone was invited. The government declared a national holiday for Tuesday's victory parade, and as a result, an estimated 4 million people flooded the streets to celebrate the country's first title since 1986. But the street parade, it did get out of hand when two men jumped from an overpass bridge onto the team's open-air bus. Yikes. Now, the parade was later halted, and Lionel Messi and his teammates were forced to move their party to the air. Some wild scenes there, and thank you so much for your company. I'm Christy Lustau. Do have a wonderful day. CNN Newsroom continues now with Max Foster next.